Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our 2020 Walk in Remembrance with Hope closing ceremony. My name is Stan Collins, and once again, I'll be your MC, and I'm honored to fill this role. For many of us, we are so used to gathering in person and helping the pain hurt a little bit less and celebrate our memories, focus on prevention, and we're heartbroken that we can't do that, but we've been so inspired by all of you throughout the week for joining us last week, for posting your pictures, engaging with us on social media. And as someone who's worked in suicide prevention here in San Diego for over 20 years, I can say without a doubt that this is surprisingly in this virtual setting been one of the most just energetic and event-filled times that we've had going on to recognize Suicide Prevention Week, to honor our loved ones. And a special thank you to everyone who engaged with us on Thursday night as we lit candles in memory of those we lost, and in a message of strength to those who are finding their reasons for living, to keep holding on and keep finding hope. So today we're going to mix it up a little bit from what we did last week. We're going to have some amazing guest speakers that I'm really excited to introduce to you. We're going to share with you some of the highlights from this week's social media postings. We're also going to share with you a couple films from the Directing Change program. So we're going to bring in a little bit of everything. And then today we're also going to close out. We went and we edited the footage from the Dove release, and we're going to bring you a special clip here to close us out for the day. So thank you for joining us as we wrap up Suicide Prevention Week across the country. And with that, I would like to introduce Joyce Bruggeman, who serves as the Executive Director for Survivors of Suicide Loss San Diego, who many of you know. So Joyce, good morning. We did it. It wasn't perfect, but we made the walk happen this year, and it's been great working with your team. So I'm going to go ahead and give you the stage.
All right. Thank you, Stan. Good morning to you. And I echo what you said. It actually has been amazing. You know, last week, when I shared with you during our opening ceremonies, I said that our SOSL community is strong, resilient, adaptable, compassionate, and hopeful. And like Stan, I have seen those qualities on full display this week as you have risen to the challenge of doing this walk in a very different way. You know, Stan has shared some of the ways that we came together this week, physically and virtually. I want you to know that our opening ceremony last week had over 900 views on Facebook. We got the word out. Many people found a way to walk COVID safe with family and friends. Others joined a virtual walk. We had the lighting a candle ceremony, and SOSL had their first ever virtual concert, and it was sponsored by a fundraiser for Team Invictus. And behind the scenes this week, so many of you have been working so hard to continue to raise funds for this event, and I know that that is not easy. I would say that you met the challenge of this unexpected and unwelcome change in how we had to walk together this year. I really want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. You really did exceed any expectations I had about how this week would unfold, and I saw many of the same things that Stan did, and it really warmed my heart. We had no idea when we realized we were going to have to go virtual, we were going to be able to even come close to our fundraising goals. But you all have outdone yourselves. You have been generous in your support of this event. And I want you to understand how grateful we are, because SOSL could not provide the services that we provide without people like you and our community partners. I also want you to know that as of 10:05, before we went live today, I checked our fundraising goals, and we have exceeded our $60,000 fundraising goal. And I want to thank you That is amazing. I've been involved with this walk for 6 years. This is the first time we've ever met our goal. And the fact that we exceeded it in this environment is just amazing to me. And I want to thank you. And a lot of that goes due to our top fundraisers and our top teams. And I want to take just a couple of minutes to recognize them because it really is an amazing amount of work to get behind this charge and to raise funds. So this year, our top 5 fundraisers, number 5, Connie Kennemer, one of our longtime SOSL facilitators. Number 4, Christy Okuma. Number 3, a strong supporter and a SOSL facilitator, Rosia Harris. Number 2, Kim Jensen, on behalf of Eileen Fram. And our top fundraiser this year, Duke Correo, and he raised $8,800. That is amazing. We want to thank each of those individuals. And then in addition, we want to thank our top teams because it is a team effort many times, and so many people are involved in that. Our number 5 team this year, Team Mitchell, as led by Brooke Price, one of our SOSL facilitators. They brought in $2,550. Number 4, Grief Mates, captained by Robin Wasserman. They raised $4,260. Number 3 this year, Team Invictus, led by Rosia Harris. They brought in $6,841. Our number 2 team this year, it was a tight battle towards the end. It changed right at the last minute. Number 2 was Team Jen, captained by Kim Jensen and Eileen Fram. They have been a strong top team for years for SOSL, and we appreciate the ongoing support. Our number 1 team this year, I hope I say this right, Team Maddie Fat Daddy Fat, led by Duke Carrero. They brought in $10,800. We are extremely grateful because we realize what this represents. So thank you. Each and every one of us has been changed by how we honored our loved ones this week, how we shared our messages of hope. I want you to understand that those around you have also been changed, and we have changed our San Diego community. I want to thank you for being flexible and adaptable and strong and resilient and being a part of this year's walk. You know, and until we can be together physically next year in Balboa Park, I want to encourage each of us to continue to take one step at a time until all of San Diego knows that hope is just a step away. Looking forward to seeing you next September. Thank you.
Done so much for survivors of suicide loss, for those in the survivor community. You're just an amazing person, and I know everybody out there watching just has immense appreciation and admiration for you. So thank you for all that you've done. One specific shout out, we started off with the sponsors today, but I did want to give a special thank you to Optum. Optum was the presenting sponsor this year, so to Optum and all of our wonderful sponsors, thank you so much for keeping us going and keeping us able to bring this walk virtually. We know it's such an important part of, and I know it's an important part of my year and also for you. So with that, I'm going to take the opportunity to introduce Jana Scherspatowski, who's my co-founder of the Directing Change program, a very good friend of mine. Jana, so if you can go ahead and turn on your camera and your mic, we're going to go ahead and bring you in. So everyone, over the last few years, Directing Change has been partnered with SOSL, but we wanted to take this opportunity since we're here virtually and we are a film-based program to highlight a little bit more than usual. So Jana, the stage is yours.
Yes, hello, thank you. I'm so happy to be here with you today. And as Stan mentioned, I am the Executive Director of the Directing Change program, co-founder with Stan. But as so many of you, my passion for this work comes from personal experience and loss. And I think when we created Directing Change, our goal and our hope really is to prepare young people to recognize warning signs of suicide, or really to recognize distress or emotional pain in their friends, and then prepare them to be there for their friend, to talk to a trusted adult, to not keep it a secret if they're concerned a friend might be thinking about suicide, and possibly most importantly, to be able to connect themselves or to connect a friend to the help they might need. So Directing Change is actually an art and film contest. We encourage young people to create 30 or 60-second public service announcements, and then we share these films to raise awareness in families, with schools, with communities, to really start conversations about topics that are often kept silent. In addition to the suicide prevention category, we also have categories that promote conversations around mental health, that encourage films in different languages, and also encourage youth to really look around how do they approach these topics through their culture? What are some strengths in their culture that they can really base on for coping and for healing? We are also extremely excited this year to promote or to offer a brand new category called Hope and Justice, which takes a critical look at giving young people an opportunity to take part in the conversations that are taking place across the world, really. Thinking about, with the pandemic, with the wildfires that are continuing to ravage California and really other parts of our nation, what can they do to get through tough times? How are they coping? How can they be there for others? So with that, we wanted to just take a little bit of a moment and also talk about, depending on where you might be at in your own healing process, how you can get involved. So if you are a young person between the ages 12 and 25, if you're in middle school, high school, if you're a young adult, please consider going to our website, directingchangeca.org, and submitting a film. I should mention we're predominantly a film contest, but our new category, Hope and Justice, does accept submissions on a monthly basis and in all art forms. So whether it's spoken word, whether you're a painter, a sketch artist, a comic artist, whether you're a musician, really any art form is accepted, again, on a monthly basis. If you're a parent, if you're a teacher, if you're a community member, really anybody else out there, please get involved by judging the youth-produced projects. Judging always takes place around April, and we are always in need of volunteers for this effort. And then there's lots of other ways to get involved. So please join our Directing Change community, and either by submitting projects, being a mentor, or by being a judge. We also work with schools on the back end, and Stan does a lot of this work is to support schools and districts to have prevention policies and practices in place, to be prepared in the tragic event if there is a suicide loss on campus or in the school community. How can they prepare to support a youth that is experiencing a crisis? And we encourage districts and schools to reach out to parents and have effective parent engagement events to, again, involve parents in these conversations. So overall, how can we work together to prepare youth to be there for a friend, to recognize signs of distress and to step in? But also, how can we have conversations about suicide prevention and make it okay for young people when they're in pain to ask for help, and make it safe for a young person who's noticing something is not quite wrong with their friend to take action and support that friend in the right way. With that, I think we wanted to really, one more opportunity for you to be involved is we have hundreds of youth-produced films on our website. They're all free, and we hope that you will take 5 minutes or 15 minutes after this event throughout the week, throughout the year, view some of these films, get inspired by some of the amazing work these young people are doing, and find a way to share the films with a friend, with a family member, maybe as part of a presentation you're doing for work. And use these films, again, to start these much needed conversations we need to have in our schools, in our own families, and in our communities. So with that, we wanted to show you 2 films that Chris is going to play. One of them, the first one, is How to Help a Friend, from students from San Pasqual Union Middle School. And I wanted to just mention, 2 years ago, we opened up our program to middle schools with special design submission criteria and lesson plans for that age group. We've been getting a lot of requests to even open it up at the elementary school level. And I think this really shows how early we need to start having these conversations, what a need there is early on for parents, for young people, for teachers to have the tools they need to start to feel comfortable talking about mental health and these topics that are, complex and challenging sometimes. And then the second film we're going to show you is By Your Side, from students at Rancho Bernardo High School. So I just wanted to take a moment again and thank survivors of suicide loss for this partnership. We've been partners for about 3 years now, but as Stan mentioned, we've really been part of this walk in the San Diego community for more than a decade, and it's been such an honor and a privilege to be part of this walk. And I thank everybody for joining us today.
As a friend, you really should know the signs. Know the signs of suicide. They include: if you see someone who's sad, angry, lonely, or someone who's just not their normal self, If you see someone like that, reach out. People need to know that you care. So reach out to them. Connect. And talk to them about what's going on. Then, make sure you tell an adult, even if your friend says not to. Tell someone you trust, like a parent, counselor, or even a teacher. When you take the time to recognize the signs, when you take the time to reach out, when you take the time to tell an adult, you're being exactly the kind of friend the world needs more of.
Things haven't been the same for some time. You were always the loud one. I was quiet, but somehow it worked out. We were inseparable until suddenly things began to change. Are you good?
Yeah, fine.
You became distant and didn't see a future for yourself. So for that, you're using ethos because you're dealing with the guy's credibility, right?
None of this matters anyway. It's not like it's gonna help me in life.
I knew something was different, but I couldn't bring myself to speak up. You started to give your possessions away. Please know it's not your fault. Sometimes life simply happens. I can't just stand aside and watch you go through this by yourself. I know what I need to do. Can we talk?
So thanks everyone. For those of you who have never seen Directing Change films, now you have. We wanted to share those films with you because they're really at the core of the program, the heart of the program. So a special shout out to all those youth filmmakers. Thank you, Joyce. Thank you, Jana, for your remarks here today. And now we have a very special guest. I'd like to introduce California State Senator Ben Hueso, who's been an ally and advocate for mental health throughout his time in public office. He currently serves on the Senate Select Committee on Mental Health, and he's been spearheading efforts to prevent future loss on the Coronado Bridge, which included $5 million of funding and creating a citizens advisory board to provide input on the Caltrans project. His representative on that board, Bertha Loaiza, who you'll hear immediately after the senator, is a suicide loss survivor with a very powerful story who has utilized that story as a vehicle to open up conversations. She does amazing presentations on the power of healing through conversation. So before we get to Bertha though, Senator Hueso, thank you so much for doing this, and just a personal thank you as a loss survivor myself for everything that you've done to bring attention and effort to getting a barrier on the Coronado Bridge. So Senator, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Stan, and thank you everybody for allowing me to be part of this very special event and all the work that you do to raise awareness and to help all the individuals that have suffered loss to cope with that. My name, as you mentioned, Ben Hueso. I'm the senator for the 40th Senate District, which includes San Diego County and Imperial counties. And also, as Stan mentioned, I have worked for years on mental health legislation and also policies that prevent suicides. I'm also a member of the Mental Health Caucus of the legislature's Mental Health Caucus, working to push an agenda that will help people that suffer from mental illness. I really want to thank all of you for your leadership in helping to provide comfort to people that have been the victims of loss. I have also suffered certain losses of family members, and a goddaughter of mine and a nephew of mine chose to end their own lives, and it's a very painful thing. You live with not only the pain of loss, as if you would lose any family member to any normal passing. You live with that pain, but you also live with the guilt that you could have done something to prevent it. And that's something that I think everyone that goes through this experiences in a very painful way. So helping to comfort those is very important, but also helping to change the way society looks at this problem. Overall, it's been something that has been faced over historically with shame. It's something that's usually concealed, something that is we should feel that we should not discuss publicly. And as a Catholic, the church for many years has said it was a mortal sin, that people that choose to end their lives don't go to heaven and don't have a normal funeral and can't be buried in a normal cemetery. And that because of advocacy and awareness and learning that this is a problem that's not engaged in intentionally is something that has resulted in them changing their dogma and the religion. And those are positive steps that we continue to make because of individuals like you that advocate for this issue, and all of you that contribute to this social conversation. We're hoping that we make gains in understanding this problem and helping to prevent it in many ways. And hopefully as we allow people to discuss this and not to be ashamed about it and come out and say, I have a problem, I'm experiencing enormous pain that I cannot do anything about. And I feel that only one solution is, the only solution is ending my life. Hopefully by having that conversation and finding a way how we can deal with individual pain, this enormous excruciating pain that forces people to the ultimate decision of ending their life, is something that we can work to avoid in the future. So thank you for what you do. And I also want to thank my friend, Bertha, Loaiza, who has stepped up to be a champion on building awareness and helping others cope and helping to be part of our solution here to help prevent suicides in many different ways. I want to thank her for her community service. And now I want to introduce Bertha Loaiza to all of you. Thank you.
Senator, thank you so very much. Bertha, we're going to invite you in to join us here for just a second. We'll share everybody. Senator, thank you for your words. And again, we're just from the suicide prevention community. Not that I guess I should speak on behalf of an entire community, but this time I'm going to make the allowance and just say thank you. Thank you for spearheading the effort. It's efforts like those that will continue to snowball, create other efforts, bring more awareness, bring more prevention. So thank you for being courageous. Thank you for standing up and saying something needs to be done. Just a ton of respect for you, sir.
Thank you.
And with that, we're going to turn it over to Bertha. So you all know each other. Bertha was your appointee to the commission. So Bertha, thank you for joining us. Again, Bertha is a lost survivor. And Bertha, we're going to go ahead and give you the stage. But Senator, thank you again so much for joining us today.
And thank you and all of you.
Take good care, sir.
Thank you, Stan. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today in our walk in remembrance of hope as we reminisce about the lives of our loved ones that we have lost to suicide. Let us make sure we remember them not by how they died, but by how they lived. At this time, I would like to share my story and why suicide prevention has become my mission. The world and I lost my beautiful mom, Angelica, to suicide on August 4th, 1985, as she and I both went over the San Diego Coronado Bay Bridge, an approximate 220-foot fall into the cold San Diego Bay water. Yes, you heard that right. I was with her on that dreadful day. I was 3 years old as my mother, who was 23 years old, was holding me in her arms. Although not immediately obvious, I did suffer many physical and permanent injuries while in a medically induced coma. My small body was healing from severe swelling and inflammation in my brain. As time went by, I had many doctor visits to help heal and correct some of the vision loss in my right eye. As a result of this fall, I also suffered a fractured right hip, in which I am happy to share I no longer have pain thanks to the total hip replacement I had about 3 years ago. I began attending SOSL support groups after the recommendation of a therapist that I was seeing. I initiated my therapy sessions to get help with processing my mother's death, since at that time I had limited knowledge regarding mental illnesses and what they were all about. Being a part of the SOSL support groups helped me realize that I was not the only one going through this unique pain. As a survivor of a loss of suicide, I was left with feelings of guilt and confusion and sadness. The what ifs kept lingering in the back of my mind. But as I took small breaks from crying during group, I was able to speak about this heavy pain weighing me down. I listened to others share their stories of loss, which were similar to mine. We shared tips on how to not only forgive ourselves if we felt guilt, but also on how to sleep better or even make sense of the fact that life had to go on. I learned how important it is to define the life of our loved one by how they lived and not by how they died. Throughout the 23 years that my mom lived on this earth, she had family, friends, coworkers, schoolmates, and so many others that I'm sure were affected by this loss. I am truly blessed that I was given a second chance at life to keep those wonderful memories of her alive and hear stories of how great-spirited she was to others. I feel a responsibility to share my painful story with the world so that others may be able to connect and find hope and not feel alone or as if no one would understand, as I felt at one time. The importance of this walk and the entire mission behind SOSL is to not only support us, the survivors, but to learn to process and grieve through such a tragic event in our lives as we bring awareness and understanding to such a stigmatized topic. It is imperative that we are all aware of what keeps our own mental health in good shape, or mental hygiene, if you will, along with our physical health. Awareness, prevention, support, and postvention are areas of mental health that can and must be addressed. Once I realized how my story was helping break the ice in conversations that others were having, I volunteered my time to help SOSL promote suicide prevention for the well-being of ourselves and others. Now I proudly serve on the board of directors at SOSL. I facilitate a Spanish-speaking support group for survivors of suicide loss and continue my mental health advocacy through many other projects. A special thanks to our previous speaker, Senator Ben Hueso, for nominating me to a special project. Alongside Caltrans leadership, engineers, designers, and other local suicide prevention advocates, I now sit on the committee that is working diligently to make sure there are permanent suicide deterrents across the San Diego Coronado Bay Bridge. I am aware that this brings up issues of the aesthetics of this bridge. I am first in line to vouch for the beautiful views as I drive over the bridge. However, you cannot put a price on a life. Putting up any type of permanent deterrent would give us a permanent and safe view. I want lives to be saved. I do not want anyone else to have to tell the same story that I am telling you now. I also want all of us to speak up and find help if we are struggling with mental health problems. I want all of us to take even the smallest step towards removing the stigma. Please help me do this any way available to you. For example, using the phrase died by suicide instead of committed suicide would be a great start because suicide is not a crime. I wake up every morning being so thankful that I get to see another sunrise and continue to share with the world the importance of maintaining our mental health while promoting a healthy lifestyle. Every day is a gift that I get to spend with my loving husband, our two beautiful children, and supportive family and friends. The Walk in Remembrance with Hope provides support for those left behind after suicide and raises awareness about the impact and prevention of suicide. The funds raised from this event stay in San Diego to touch the lives of San Diegans through two nonprofits that work in this field, SOSL and Directing Change. Finally, I would like to leave you with this. Mental illnesses are real. Mental illnesses are not a sign of weakness or failure, and suicide is preventable. Please speak up, seek help, and remember to take care of yourself, both physically and mentally. I can't change my story, but I have decided to change the way that I choose to live it. Thank you.
Bertha, thank you so very much for being here today, for sharing not only your story, but your passion. And just thank you for all that you're doing just to raise awareness in general. I've heard so many people come to me after they've heard you speak and just been profoundly impacted. You do amazing work. Your soul is just wonderful and beautiful. And you wear your, you give so much to us. So thank you for, being here. Thank you for, it's so great to work with you and have a colleague and a friend. So just thank you for being here today and for sharing your story. You're truly, truly one of my heroes. So,
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Bertha. So with that, again, thank you to Bertha. Thank you to Senator Hueso. It's been wonderful to have that perspective, to know that we can gather to honor our loss, but also still focus on prevention if we're able to. And some of us aren't in that space yet. Some of us aren't, our wherever we're at in our loss process is the place where we need to be for as long as we need to be there. But when you're ready and if you get to a place where you want to engage in prevention as a loss survivor, please let us know. But there's no rush or no pressure to do that. Again, we're all on our own journey. But speaking of journeys, many of you took journeys this week and shared your videos, shared your stories. Again, we really just wanted to take this opportunity this week, since we weren't meeting in person, to just engage on social media. And I'm frightened of social media as well, but I know that some of you out there overcame your fears as well and posted some things. So with that, Chris, I believe we have a highlight reel that we just want to share with you really quickly to thank you for posting and just share with you some of the awesome conversation that was going out there to help us focus on that hope. So we're going to go ahead and play this highlight reel for you. So on behalf of everyone from Survivors of Suicide Lost San Diego, from Directing Change, thank you for getting out there this week. Thank you for those wonderful videos, the pictures, the memories. What my hope is, and what our hope was, is that those moments allowed for some healing, but also allowed for conversation. I know for me, through this week, as strange as it is, because I'm always out there talking about it, I don't always take time in my personal life to have conversation with my family and friends as much as I should. And the candle lighting on Thursday gave me an opportunity with my family to for them to show their support for me, and we had a really sweet moment together. But thank you for all those videos, for all those pictures. We miss everybody out there, and we're so sad that we couldn't be there together in person. But I think we all know that the pain we share, the hope that we share, more importantly, is so profound that it stretches across boundaries. Even though we can't be physically together, we're definitely emotionally together. I want to give a couple other thank yous. Again, Senator Hueso and Bertha, thank you again for being here this morning. But I want to give a shout out back to last week to Roja and Aaron. I know you're out there, you're watching. So proud of you that you got the event off and the concert. You two are amazing, wonderful people, and I miss you guys. And Kim Bozart, another board member for Survivors of Suicide Loss, with your remarks last week was absolutely beautiful. And just a special shout out to one of our longtime supporters, Eileen, Team Jen. We know you're out there, just sending our love, and we're thinking about you today and always. So, excuse me, one second. So this is always an emotional event for me personally, for so many of us who come together. And when I might have mentioned this last week, but when I was prepping with Roja and Aaron, as we were talking about why we walk and why we support survivors of suicide loss, the one thing, and it kind of just slipped out of my mouth, but it really made sense and it resonated with the two of them, was that when I'm with loss survivors, other loss survivors, it just hurts less. It's just as simple as that. You don't have to filter through any shame or guilt or stigma or anything. It's just, yes, this is part of my story. But let me tell you about the person who I cared about. Let me tell you about the person who I loved. Because as Bertha said, it's about honoring who they were in life, not the manner in which their life ended. So virtual hugs out to everybody out there. And to close out the day, we're going to show you some of those dove release footage. We're going to share with you 2 individual dove releases as well as an edited of the live large group dove release. But before we get to that point, obviously my emotions are rising to the surface a little bit. So I just want to take a collective breath because this is an emotional part of the ceremony every single year. And just want to reiterate that everybody at Survivors of Suicide Loss and Directing Change, our hearts go out to you, and our gratitude goes out to you. Thank you for making this year's virtual event so successful. Thank you for all that you do to support us every single year, but especially this year, knowing how many people out there are struggling and trying to find their reasons for living. So I'll come back to close it out real quickly after the dove release footage, but again, just wanted to take a collective breath and slow it down. And although we're not there physically with you, we're there holding your hand. Our spirits are. So with that, Chris, if we could go ahead and play the dove release videos. Please.
Thomas is our brother who took his life, but we want to remember him today and the life that he gave. He said one time that when you see a bird, you'll think of me. So we're just remembering you, Thomas, especially today. And we love you so much. Thomas had a beautiful gift for music. He was so talented. He had a joy that just spread whenever he was in the room, and just his laughter and jokes. He knew how to brighten anyone's day and just make people feel better. He could pick out your talents and encourage you in that. We wish you could be here, Thomas. But we know you're in God's hands now, and that's better than anything. So you're being well taken care of. So we just... We love you. We want you to go to God, Thomas. In peace.
This bird is in honor of my brother Jamie, who loved life. He loved to make people laugh. He was a good dad, husband, brother, son. He loved to cook, fish, and play poker. He's in heaven with God, and through his life, I've learned how to help others. So go to God.
And Chris is going to queue up the large dove release here in just a moment, but I just want to send a special thank you out to those who were strong enough and raised the money, and thank you for releasing those individual doves and for letting us share the footage here today. I know as hard as it is, it's also really beautiful to see you out there, to see you, remembering who they were and who your loved ones were. So thank you all for supporting us. And again, I'm sorry, I'm getting choked up once again, so my words are not as graceful as I would hope they would be. But we're going to close out with the large group dove release here in just a moment. And as we're getting that prepped, I just want to send, again, a special thank you to all of our sponsors. Again, significantly, especially to Optum as our presenting sponsor, but all of our sponsors that you saw on the reel at the beginning. Thank you for supporting us, many of you year over year. So thank you for that. Again, thank you to Senator Hueso and Bertha for joining us today. And thanks you to all of you out there for joining us at the opening ceremony, for joining us today, for engaging with us, and for helping to raise funds and to donate. Again, as was mentioned earlier, all the funds raised from this walk stay here in San Diego to help the support groups, to help Directing Change do post-vention support in schools and local outreach, to keep the many trainings and supports that SOSL has going. So again, I know it's so easy to say, but we really couldn't do this without you. Your support keeps us going and hopefully helps to reduce the pain for loss survivors, just even a little bit. And even more, hopefully, through all of these conversations, we can really remind people of their reasons for living so people don't have to go through what those of us have been through. Special message to anybody out there who might be listening who's debating and trying to find their reasons for living. Please know that you're not alone. And if you would like to reach out for support, please do. You can contact our local San Diego County Access and Crisis line at 888-724-7240. If you're in distress, if you just need to talk to somebody, if the emotions from this event were a little bit overwhelming, if you're worried about somebody and you're trying to figure out what resources or how to have that conversation, again, that number is 888-724-7240. We're going to continue to promote on social media. So if you're looking for an opportunity to engage with someone, please help us get the word out. But thank you from the bottom of my heart for all your support to survivors of suicide loss. Thank you to survivors of suicide loss for trusting me as an MC. Once again, this is one of my favorite times of the year, and it really means so much. So I miss you all. We send our love out to each and every one of you. And thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you for all your support. And with that, we're going to close out with the group dove release video. But for now, take good care, and we will see you all soon. Thank you again for joining us today. Thank you again to everybody for all your support. And just again, know that hope is greater than pain, and please take care of yourselves, and we'll see you again soon. But in the meantime, please take good care and stay safe. Thank you again.